Welcome to the Visit Greenland online courses, a great online education series to bring you information about travel in Greenland. This is Greenland 101, an introduction course to demystify the basics, like why do most people want to go to Greenland? What do you do in this Arctic land as a traveler? And how do you even get here? Greenland 101 is useful for everyone. It's the perfect introduction for anybody looking to increase their knowledge about Greenland. Whether we've just come onto your radar, or if you're already considering adding Greenland to your destination portfolio. And even if you've been successfully selling trips to Greenland for many years, this course can always act as a useful brush-up. Let's spend a minute to get an overview of the content you'll find in this course. There are 6 distinct topics in this 101 course. We'll start with an introduction to the brand of Greenland, to give you a behind-the-scenes look at the motivation behind our work, how we came up with the overall brand, and why we think it's important that both your and our marketing efforts complement each other. Afterward, we'll take a look at the key elements that motivate travelers to come to Greenland, the different regions, plus some of the nuts and bolts like flight routes and weather. We've purposely made this course very easy to digest, so that you can transfer the information in a similar manner to your guests. As a final note before we get into the course, if you like the photos and films you see, all of them are taken right here in Greenland, and they are available for you to browse and download to create your own sales materials, be that print brochures or web pages. Information about our media can be found on the official tourism website, greenland.com. We start with a short film to introduce you to what the Greenland brand is, and how we at Visit Greenland try to tell the story of this brand. While this is behind-the-scenes information that you would not directly communicate as is to your guests, it is the necessary foundation for you to have a deep understanding of how to position and promote the destination. We share it with you so that you too can be a great storyteller and ambassador for Greenland.
Når man talte med folk, og man nævnte Grønland, uanset om det var i udlandet eller om det var i Danmark, at så har folk haft et billede i hovedet af, hvad det var.
Man har egentlig, det er i hvert fald min oplevelse af det, haft en Grønlands fortælling, som forsøgte at møde en mere eller mindre romantiseret version af, hvad Grønland er, ikke også?
Det var ligesom det glansbillede, der blev vist, og det var den forventning, folk havde, når de kom til Grønland. Men det var jo ikke det, de fik. Og så startede det hele den her rebranding-proces, fordi at vi syntes, vi skulle vise et mere ærligt billede af, hvad Grønland er.
Når man ikke har specielt mange penge, og når man er relativt få mennesker, så er det både meget økonomisk omkostningsfuldt, men også menneskeligt omkostningsfuldt at bringe eksterne kompetencer ud, hvis de samtidig tager langt de fleste af kompetencerne med tilbage, der hvor de kom fra, når et projekt er slut. Så i en rebranding-proces, hvis vi fik hjælp af et reklamebureau og fik alle billederne taget udefra, så ville vi formodentlig både skulle betale mange penge for licenser. Vi ville ikke være helt sikre på, at vi kunne styre fotografen. Idéerne, der kom, ville måske endda være udefra kommende. Det ville være folk fra USA eller Danmark eller Australien, som kom med deres egne forudindfattede billeder af Grønland. Og dem havde vi ligesom nok af. Det var ikke fordi, vi ikke godt vidste, hvad de ville sige. Der var egentlig behov for at koble det, de tænkte, med det, vi selv tænkte. Og så samtidig ud af det skabe et nyt brainchild, som samtidig var i stand til at lave billeder og film og fortællinger. Så det kort sagt, altså, det er at tage ejerskab både til kompetencer og proces, fordi det gør, at det kan komme indefra, frem for at komme udefra.
Vi kommunikerer The Big Arctic 5. Det er ligesom vores fokus. Det her, de her 5 ting, man må opleve, når man er i Grønland.
Man kan se nordlys, man kan opleve isen, man kan opleve hvalerne rigtig mange steder. Der er rigtig mange destinationer, som tilbyder de her ting. Men vi har hele tiden sagt, at Pioneering Nation, som er det nationale brand, er dybt bundet sammen med det, vi kalder pioneering people, som er det her 5. element i brandet, som er den menneskelige aspekt. Altså, som er den faktor, som gør, at det ikke kun hvaler, men det er hvaler i Grønland, fordi du oplever det i et samfund, som er dybt bundet sammen med hvaler på en særlig måde. Ligesom det vil være i Island og Norge på en anden måde. Så det er en kulturelt særegen eller kulturelt særlig måde at opleve det på. Det billede, vi ser her, det er egentlig et billede, som vi har brugt rigtig meget tid på at lave, og som er en del af noget, vi kalder konceptbilleder. Fordi det her billede er faktisk et forsøg på at udtrykke balancen mellem en selvfortælling og en fortælling udefra. Fordi vi har en hundeslædefører i isbjørnebukser med sine hunde ude i baglandet. Det er det, folk forventer at se fra Grønland. Men så laver vi et twist i historien, som vi siger, for det første er det en ung hundeslædefører. For det andet, så læser han en avis. Og for det tredje, så sidder han og drikker espresso. Og historien her er jo selvfølgelig, at hundeslædefører er ikke sådan nogle, hvad kan man sige, hundeslædefører er ikke den her traditionelle gamle mand, som tager ud og fanger sæler, og som ikke drikker kaffe og ikke er intellektuel osv. Han har en masse forskellige dimensioner som menneske. Og det er jo den her menneskelige fortælling, som er hjørnestenen i brandet. Og det er det brand, som gør det muligt for os at lege med de her identiteter, og spille på dem, og bringe sådan et lidt overraskende og lidt kan man sige, drillende element ind. Og på den måde samtidig iscenesætte brandet på en ny og forhåbentlig lidt overraskende måde for folk.
I hele vores branding-proces fandt vi ud af, at billeder og film, altså det visuelle, er super vigtigt for at formidle Grønland. Og i og med, at vi har haft, vi måske har vist et glansbillede af Grønland før, fandt vi ud af, at vi vil gerne vise det moderne billede af Grønland. Og det gør vi gennem vores website og vores billeder. Og vores billeder er jo ikke kun nogen, som vi bruger. Det er jo nogen, som vi lægger tilgængelige for agenter og presse. Så de bliver brugt af rigtig, rigtig mange, som gør, at Grønland kommer ud. Og det er en del af vores strategi, fordi vi har kun begrænsede midler til at ligesom fortælle, hvad Grønland er. Men igennem billeder, som så bliver brugt af alle mulige andre, vil vi gerne fortælle historien, og det er derfor, vi gør det nemt tilgængeligt, vi gør det gratis.
Altså, der er ingen tvivl om, at digital udvikling er en hjørnesten i vores omkostningsreduktion og i måden, vores reach. Altså, der kan sikkert tegnes en graf over, at på trods af lavere omkostninger, så får man højere reach. Altså den her balance mellem de her ting. Fordi det er en verden, hvor den digitale verden, hvor det er lige så vigtigt for os at bruge 100.000 på SEO, altså Search Engine Optimization, og online ting, som det måske for 10 år siden var at trykke en annonce i et blad. Og vi får utrolig meget mere for pengene i de her digitale processer.
I forbindelse med hele den her rebranding-proces gik vi også i gang med at lave en segmentering, som fortalte os noget om, hvad er det for en interesse, de her turister, der besøger os, rent faktisk har. Natur og kultur er ligesom de vigtigste elementer for de turister, der besøger landet. Og det, der definerer adventure-turisme, er kultur, natur og en eller anden form for aktivitet. Og det er Grønland per definition. Så det er der slet ikke nogen tvivl om, at vi henvender os til adventure-minded folk. Vi ved, at adventure-turister bruger flere penge på destinationen og er meget mere bevidste om ikke at efterlade spor og interagere med den lokale befolkning osv. Og det er super vigtigt.
Så for os er det her en ny og anderledes spændende måde at markedsføre på, men det skal have en resonans i samfundet. Og det har det her. Det har vi jo kunne se i, at det er blevet brugt af rigtig mange mennesker, og det er blevet brugt til at fortælle historier om Grønland af grønlændere selv. Og det synes vi er sjovt, fordi det giver en ekstra dimension til vores arbejde.
Now that you've got a better understanding of what the Pioneering Nation brand is, and what the core values are behind Visit Greenland's work, we can dig a little deeper into the information that you can plug directly into your marketing materials, as well as use in client consultations. That is, what Greenland is and has to offer for your guests. So, why do people want to go to Greenland? Well, this is a loaded question, and the truth is that there is a complex network of reasons depending on what kind of traveler a person is and what their own personal interests are. We'll get into some of the subtle differences between various traveler types in the subsequent courses. But for now, suffice it to say that nature is hands down the top reason people want to visit our stunning country. Even those who are self-proclaimed cultural enthusiasts, let's say, find themselves drawn to Greenland by images of horizons filled with icebergs, thoughts of how fresh the air smells, water so pure it can be drunk directly from the stream, and a jigsaw coastline spotted with small towns and settlements. The natural landscape one finds in Greenland are simply so different and a world away from what the average person sees in his or her daily life, and people want to experience it at least once in their lifetime. Natural beauty is a good starting point, but there is also much more to Greenland. And of course, prospective travelers want more specifics about what the attractions are exactly and how they experience them. How do we define natural experiences in Greenland? We created the Big Arctic 5 concept to be a sort of starter pack to define the core components of what is exciting about Greenland. The 5 elements, in no particular order, are dog sledding, northern lights, ice and snow, the pioneering people of Greenland, and whales. We will go through each of them briefly now. Ice comes in all sizes, shapes, and colors. There are shades of blue, white, and clear, some with effects like cracked marble, creating an otherworldly backdrop for photos. Glossy, bubbly, and waves frozen in mid-air often describe Greenland's icy elements. There is one Greenland ice sheet, which covers the entire interior of the country and is over a mile thick in some places. There are thousands of massive icebergs that can float freely in the sea or get locked in place. Ice is the easiest natural element to experience, as it is accessible in every region of Greenland and all year round, even when it's summertime and all the snow has melted on the ground. Being in the presence of such a unique environment gives a feeling of accomplishment, awe, and humility. Changing gears to whales, Greenland prides itself on having only free and wild animals in its waters. The 15 whale species found up here are free to swim wherever the krill and schools of fish lead them, which sometimes can be right underneath your boat. That being said, some species favor certain regions of Greenland more than others, and even choose particular fjords year after year, making many places along the coast reliable havens for whale safari. Summertime from June to September is the prime whale watching season. Species like humpback, fin, and blue whales migrate north to Greenland in late spring and summer to feed before heading south toward the equator to give birth to calves in warmer water. There are also 3 species for which Greenland is a permanent home, known as the winter whales. Bowhead, narwhal, and beluga whales stay in Arctic waters all year long. However, they stick to remote pockets of the coastline and are quite rare to spot on the average whale watching tour. The third Big Arctic 5 element is the Northern Lights, and we like to consider this our little way of adding an extra bonus to the adventures of winter. They are free, there's enough for everyone, and all it takes is some warm layers, maybe a warm drink, and an ounce of patience while waiting for them to appear from your front terrace or backcountry hideaway. The Northern Lights are a common sight in the night sky from the end of August to the middle of April. Even with a few lit street lamps in town, the light pollution is negligible, making the Northern Lights easily visible when there is a clear sky. Next, dog sledding is one of the more universally attractive experiences in Greenland, and no other big Arctic 5 element is so perfect a medley of nature with Greenlandic culture. Owning dogs and being a musher is a lifestyle, and it tells the story of how Greenlanders are resilient and inventive, adapting to the robust Arctic environment. As an activity which requires plenty of snow, the primary dog sledding season is spring, during the months of March and April. It is also an activity which is geographically dependent on the presence of a solid frozen sea. Therefore, dog sledding is only possible in certain regions of Greenland, namely East Greenland and north of the Arctic Circle on the west coast. If you're not familiar with the different regions of Greenland, don't worry. We'll be covering them in just a minute. We save the most important Big Arctic 5 element for last, because it is the glue that holds everything together. It is the image which should stay freshest in your mind. The pioneering people of Greenland are the guides, cafe servers, sheep farmers, boat drivers, dog mushers, Airbnb hosts, and random smiling faces on the street who live in and love this country 365 days a year. In a single word, Greenlanders are diverse, though this transcends ethnicity to include personality, interest, and style. Greenlanders live in large cities like the capital, all the way down to tiny remote settlements of less than 100 people. Many choose to maintain a traditional way of life through fishing and hunting, while others embrace a more cosmopolitan, global pace. No matter who you meet, Greenlanders are no doubt proud, dynamic, and welcoming. Amongst travelers on the whole, these big Arctic 5 elements are the most common motivations that get their sights on Greenland. Of course, there are always travelers who let their own special interests lead the way, and for them, Greenland also has something in store. These are some of the special interests we frequently encounter, and how Greenland caters to them as a travel destination. Take gastronomy, for example. There are many travelers out there who are self-proclaimed foodies, and in 2015, Yahoo Travel named Greenland the next foodie hotspot, with a unique combination of Greenlandic flavor with Scandinavian influence. Fine dining restaurants where chefs experiment with molecular gastronomy to create small works of art, and farm-to-table local experiences are just a few of the ways to get a taste of Greenland. There's even a small batch spirits and microbrewery scene. Fishing is another such special interest, whether that's angling, ice fishing, or deep sea fishing. A few exclusive fishing camps tucked away in hidden fjords position the angling enthusiasts amongst your guests right in prime Arctic char territory. Photography is a growing niche market that includes everyone from amateurs building up their equipment base to professionals looking for top-level guidance on where to go for professional shoots. Every inch of Greenland is stunning, and special photography tours, for example, to focus on the northern lights, help to ensure capturing the perfect composition. Finally, the snowy season in Greenland is a match made in heaven for the winter sports enthusiasts out there. Greenland's mountains and backcountry lure skiers of all styles, downhill, cross-country, and even heli-skiing that takes you from summit to sea. Ski rentals in select places make a winter ski holiday simple, while the seasoned sportsmen can bring their personal gear and make their own adventure in Greenland's untouched hills. Now that you've got the big picture over the key experiences in Greenland, we'd like to introduce you to Greenland on a more geographic level. Let's get our bearings. Greenland is a sizable island located in the Arctic between Canada and Iceland. You know, the big white landmass at the top of the globe that perhaps you or your guests have flown over when jet-setting between Europe and North America. Yes, on the map, Greenland looks absolutely gigantic, but in reality, its landmass is not quite so overwhelming. For comparison's sake, Greenland is about the width of France and Germany put together, and its length stretches from southern Norway down to the north coast of Africa. And for a North American reference point, Greenland covers more or less the entire east coast of the United States. Let's take a closer look at Greenland at the regional level and spend some time discovering what makes each area unique. There are 5 distinct tourism regions in Greenland, plus the national park. As there is no tourism infrastructure in the park, like lodges or trails, we focus all our marketing efforts on the 5 regions and the main towns within each. While we profile each region, we will introduce the primary towns and settlements which have tourism offerings. Just so you know, in most cases there are actually even more settlements within the region, but which are not active in the tourism industry at this time. The 5 regions are North Greenland, Destination Arctic Circle, the Capital Region, South Greenland, and East Greenland. Let's briefly take a look at the standout selling points for each region. Please note the elements which we are about to mention are those which the regional operators themselves identify as their defining elements. However, there are dozens more experiences available than just these, which we will cover in the coming online courses. Let's start with North Greenland. The Ilulissat Ice Fjord is one of the region's greatest attractions. It lies within a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and as it is created by one of the fastest moving glaciers on the planet, it has become sort of ground zero for studying climate changes. Needless to say, it gets quite a lot of international media coverage and visitors. What is an ice fjord exactly? It's 40 kilometers, or 25 miles, stretch of sea packed bumper to bumper with absolutely gigantic icebergs. When we say gigantic, we're talking enough ice to cover the area of 30 football fields with a height of Mount Everest. These icebergs have calved, or broken off, from the glacier that lies at the innermost point of the fjord. Travelers can experience the fjord by taking flight seeing tours overhead, walking along marked hiking routes, and even sailing amongst the icebergs that lie at the westernmost point of the fjord. Another defining element of North Greenland is the high concentration of towns and settlements within Disco Bay. In winter, helicopter flights are the lifeline that connects these places to one another, and in summer, passenger boats with fixed routes take over as the primary transportation method. These towns and settlements have similar sought-after icebergs and stunning nature, but each with its own individual charm. North Greenland is actually the world's largest municipality by land area, and with 40 individual towns and settlements, you get the picture that it's vast. The majority of tourism offerings are in the Disco Bay area, with Ilulissat as the key entry point, being that it has an international airport. A convenient circular boundary is created with the settlements of Ilimanak and Okatsut, the towns of Qasigiannguit, Aasiat, and Qaqortoqsuaq, and of course Ilulissat. North of a large peninsula in the coastline lie the towns of Uummannaq and Upernavik, which are best suited for small groups and individual travelers. Moving south along the west coast, we come to Destination Arctic Circle, which is a unique region as it has both coastal and inland offerings. The Greenland ice sheet is one of only 2 ice sheets in the world, and imagine being able to access it by nearly door-to-door bus service. Destination Arctic Circle is home to a 26-kilometer, or 16-mile, unpaved road that leads adventurous travelers directly to the edge of the ice, where they can do glacier walking day tours and even camp overnight with a guide. The Arctic Circle Trail is another defining element of the region. It is a marked route through a land of 100 lakes. Wilderness seekers and nature lovers find more than a week of summer happiness as they traverse this stretch of fresh air and wide landscape that exudes Greenlandic beauty from the ice sheet out to the coast. In winter, dog sleds, snowmobiles, and the occasional fat bike with tires especially equipped for snowy terrain are the norm. The Arctic Circle Trail connects the settlement of Qaqortoqsuaq, which sits inland at the base of the longest fjord in Greenland, with the town of Sisimiut, which lies on the coast, as almost all towns do. Maniitsoq is the other town in Destination Arctic Circle, which together with the settlement Kangamut are a fantastic heliskiing area. One more hop down the west coast brings us to the Capital Region. The Capital Region is the hotspot for contemporary culture in Greenland. The colorful capital, Nuuk, is often called the Arctic metropolis, and here you will find fascinating Greenlandic culture in every way: modern design, cosmopolitan fashion, art, a lively music scene, and the University of Greenland. Getting a taste of Greenland is also a must-try experience in the capital region. With the largest concentration of fine restaurants, locally owned cafes and eateries, as well as a microbrewery right in city center, there's a new place to try for every meal. Go all-out Greenlandic and taste whale blubber, called mettek, or find global classics given a slight Greenlandic twist, like muskoxburgers and crowberry ice cream. Nuuk is not only the main driver for the capital region, but also for the entire country, as it is the administrative center. With just over 17,000 residents, it is by far the largest inhabited place in all of Greenland. It's also the most diverse place in Greenland, as more than 20% of residents were born outside of the country. Just a few hours from Nuuk lies Kapisitli, a settlement with quaint cottages and guest houses, and opportunities for hiking, hunting, and fishing. At the southernmost tip of Greenland lies the region called South Greenland. South Greenland is unique thanks in part to its Viking history. Some 1,000 years ago, Norse Vikings landed on the southwest coast and set up settlements peppered along a protected fjord. While these settlers are long gone, the ruins of their churches and farmsteads remain and are preserved in spectacular condition. Travelers love to follow the path of the sagas, walking in and amongst the ruins, watching 10th century reenactments, and debating theories on why the Vikings mysteriously disappeared. Another defining element of South Greenland is the hot springs at Unnartok. Both body and soul relax when slipping into the nature's warm bath. With the simplest of facilities just alongside the hot spring, one has an unencumbered view to the mountains and icebergs floating in the fjord just steps away. A handful of towns, settlements, and single-family sheep farms, many of which overlap with locations of previous Viking settlements, are scattered throughout to Nukljófik Fjord from end to end. Narsarsuaq is the settlement with the international airport, and from there, other settlements like Kasiarsuk and Igaliko, plus the towns of Qaqortoq, Narsak, and Nanortalik, are accessible by helicopter flights and boat routes. More active travelers have possibility to walk from place to place. Finally, the southeastern portion of the island is known as East Greenland. Dog sledding is a sacred tradition in this region. In winter and spring, mushers use their dogs, which are working animals, to go out on the frozen fjord for ice fishing, or to cross frozen lakes and snow-covered wilderness to reach other settlements. Travelers can take dog sledding tours lasting a few hours or a few days, and those who want can even try commanding the pack and getting their very own sled driver's license. Due to East Greenland's proximity to the Gulf Stream, this region sees huge ice floes coming down from the North Pole. Through flight-seeing tours and sailing tours, your guests can experience these infamous natural phenomena and learn that not all ice is created equally. With one town, Tasiilaq, and 6 settlements on the entire east coast of Greenland, this is one of the most remote places on Earth. Just over 3,000 people live here, which is only 6% of the entire Greenlandic population. A few of the settlements, like Iqloqortoormiut and Kulusuk, have hotels and local tour operators to give travelers a taste of remote settlement culture. Now that we've covered what it is about Greenland that makes it a special travel destination, let's talk about how one gets to Greenland. Here are 4 basics about international travel to Greenland. 1. There are 4 worldwide cities with direct flights to Greenland. Copenhagen, Denmark, plus 3 in Iceland. Reykjavik, Keflavik, and Akureyri. The typical flight time from Iceland is 2 to 3 hours, while it takes 4 hours to fly from Denmark. 2. There are, at this time, no direct flights to Greenland from North America. However, daily connections from Canada and the United States to both Denmark and Iceland make traveling to Greenland as simple as a one-connection trip. 3. There are 2 airlines that fly to Greenland. One is our national airline, Air Greenland, and the other is Air Iceland, a daughter company of Iceland Air. Each airline has its own distinct routes in different seasons, which we will walk through shortly. 4. With at least one international airport in each of the 5 regions we just introduced, getting to any corner of this island is surprisingly easy. There are, in fact, 6 international airports in Greenland, and we'll highlight the direct international flights to these airports in a clockwise order starting in the northeast. Please note there is actually a whole network of domestic flights via Air Greenland, which connects other towns and settlements from these 6 international entry points. We will cover domestic travel in Greenland in the next section. Nertlarit Innat is in East Greenland and is serviced by one airline. Air Iceland flies to Nertlarit Innat, also commonly called Constable Point, once a week from Akureyri Domestic Airport in Iceland, during spring, summer, and autumn. Its airport code is CNP. Kulusuk is also in East Greenland and is also serviced by just one airline. Air Iceland flies year-round from Reykjavik Domestic Airport in Iceland. The Kulusuk airport code is KUS. Narsarsuaq is in South Greenland and is serviced by 2 airlines, both during summer season only. Air Greenland flies from Copenhagen Kastrup Airport in Denmark, and Air Iceland flies from Keflavik International Airport in Iceland. Narsarsuaq's airport code is UAK. Nuuk is in the capital region. It is serviced by Air Greenland from Keflavik International Airport in spring, summer, and autumn. There are also Air Iceland flights to Nuuk from Reykjavik Domestic Airport year-round. The Nuuk airport code is GOH. Gangahlutsuaq is in Destination Arctic Circle, and it is the biggest transportation hub in the country. It can be reached by 2 airlines. Air Greenland flies from Copenhagen Kastrup Airport year-round, while Air Iceland flies from Keflavik International Airport during summer. From Gangahlutsuaq, the network of domestic Air Greenland flights is at your fingertips. The Gangahlutsuaq airport code is SFJ. Finally, Ilulissat is in North Greenland and is serviced by Air Greenland from Keflavik International Airport in summer and by Air Iceland from Reykjavik Domestic Airport in summer, spring, and autumn. Ilulissat's airport code is JAV. As you can clearly see by now, Greenland has a lot to offer, and travelers usually want to be mobile between the 5 regions of Greenland so that they can experience everything that interests them. We have just gone over how your guests will get to Greenland, so now let's talk about domestic transportation for them. Did you know we have no roads outside of inhabited places here in Greenland? Despite there are 80 towns and communities stretched out along a mountainous coastline longer than the circumference of the Earth, we have no intercity roads, no train tracks, and no Autobahn. While in other places one could basically drive for weeks from place to place, here that's just not possible. This probably needs to sink in for a moment or two, but it's not to say that you can't get around. Once you're ready to go, do as we do and make getting from place to place an adventure in itself. The quickest way to go to and fro is by airplane. Being that there's only one airline which operates domestically in Greenland, which is our national carrier Air Greenland, it makes narrowing down the itinerary options pretty easy. The Air Greenland fleet is a special one. There's one single jet plane, an Airbus 330, and it can only be used for international flights to Copenhagen. Without getting into too many technicalities, this is due to having only short runways along the coastline. Short runways mean all domestic flights in Greenland are operated with small propeller planes with capacity for 37 passengers. If you're ever having difficulty blocking seats for a medium-sized or large group, remember that limited supply and high demand is always a factor. We always recommend booking as far in advance as possible. Believe it or not, even with their small size, these propeller planes are still too large to land in some places. In addition to 14 airports, there are 47 heliports and helistops, which are reached by 13-seater helicopters called the Bell 212. These flights are booked just the same as airplane flights, and sometimes they're as short as 8 minutes, which is a shame because traveling by helicopter is such a cool experience. There's one last element to air transportation in Greenland worth mentioning. For guests who prefer exclusive transportation, the Air Greenland Charter Department has small Eurocopter helicopters and large Sikorsky S-61 helicopters, which can fly any custom route your guest desires. If air transportation is the quickest, sea transportation is by far the most scenic. As almost every single town and settlement lies on the coast, and as fishing is the primary economic industry, sailing from place to place is like second nature here. Sarfak Ituk, operated by Arctic Umiak Line, is a passenger ferry that sails along the west coast of Greenland from March until December. Over the course of approximately 3 days, the ferry makes 11 port calls between Ilulissat in the north and Qaqortoq in the south, ice conditions permitting. The stops in port last anywhere from 30 minutes to several hours, and the summer ship guide usually offers walking tours. Guests sleep either in private cabins with ensuite facilities or in shared cabins with shared facilities. There is a cafeteria on board that serves 3 meals a day, plus afternoon coffee and tea, and the multiple decks are always free to take in the sun and look for whales. Cruise ships are another way to get around Greenland by way of the water. There are many sizes of cruise ships that visit Greenland, from large 3,000-person vessels down to small expedition cruise ships and unique schooners. Some spend quite a lot of time in Greenlandic waters, typically choosing either the west coast or the east coast, while others make a few choice calls and continue to North America or Europe. There are a number of local companies in Greenland that sail fixed passenger routes or offer charter services in certain areas, like Disco Bay, for example. They typically use small and medium-sized closed boats, which are passenger approved for Arctic waters and can take 10 to 40 persons. Finally, kayaking could be a method of sea transportation for some, a bit of a long shot but not totally outside the realm of possibility, considering Greenland is an adventure travel destination. In recent years, a few expedition teams have been known to paddle the entire coastline over a few periods, with just the gear in their shells and their own manpower. Land transportation closes out the trifecta of various methods to get around Greenland. Most of them connect town with town, but in the case of longer tours and high endurance, they could potentially connect 2 regions. Nothing beats putting one foot in front of the other and powering your own exploration. In many places, lightly trodden paths lead the way from the outskirts of town to an outlying settlement, giving the feeling of going out into the great unknown, but with a destination in mind. Such hiking routes can be as short as a few hours to many days, and for the avid walkers and backpackers, several routes can be combined to create one great hiking trip lasting several weeks. Dog sledding is Greenland's original land transportation north of the Arctic Circle, and what an experience it is. It is one part nature excursion to see the mountains and frozen sea slowly passing by, and one part cultural experience, as each sled typically holds just you and the musher, giving the chance to chat about life in Greenland. Most dog sledding tours are 2 to 4 hours long, but there are also mini expeditions which span a few days with overnights in small hunting cabins. The modern juxtaposition to the dog sled is the snowmobile, a powerful and fun machine that covers long distances in a short time. They can also be used as support vehicles to portage luggage and gear while your guests ski, fat bike, or run close by. Taxis are another ground transportation mode, but we do admit that we stretched it a bit considering they can only be used within city limits, where the roads exist. Most towns have taxi cars, and they are especially good to coordinate service with airport arrivals. Hotel receptions and guest house hosts will always be able to call a car for guests who wish for one. As a segue from transportation in Greenland, now might be a good time to go ahead and be honest about the weather, as it does affect transportation. It can be blisteringly cold in winter, with snowstorms lasting for days, and winds can be so forceful that the rest of the world would call them hurricanes. On the ground, it takes basically record-breaking weather to keep Greenlanders from their daily routines. But when safety in the air is concerned, the Greenlandic weather is known to cause delays. There it is. There's simply no escaping this fact of life in the Arctic. But strong weather is fortunately not the only way in Greenland. It can also be downright hot in summer, with temperatures reaching 24 degrees Celsius or 75 degrees Fahrenheit in some places. While the ice sheet and icebergs don't melt away in summer, the snow certainly does. Think about it. There's sunlight for 20 to 24 hours a day, and there are no trees to give respite from the glaring rays overhead. Maybe you've heard the old saying, "There's no bad weather, just the wrong clothing." Well, it applies in Greenland. No matter what the season is, dressing in layers is the absolute best advice you can give your guests. And remember that cotton is never your friend. From October to April, your guests' clothing choices are all about staying warm. Breathable medium-weight base layers underneath a wool layer keep you nice and toasty. For outer layers, start with insulated snow pants that are both waterproof and windproof. For shoes, choose lined winter boots which are waterproof. A warm scarf and hat keep the wind from sneaking in. Finally, a heavyweight down jacket complete the typical cold season look in Greenland. Last but not least, keep your hands warm with a nice pair of mittens. From May to September, clothing is all about having options and layers. Lightweight base layers worked perfectly under a breathable long-sleeve shirt and loose-fitting pants. Footwear depends on the specific activity, but as a general rule should be sturdy and supportive. A wind and waterproof jacket, plus a hat or buff just in case, complete the lighter summer look in Greenland. No matter the season, it's always good to carry a day pack to hold a few extra essentials. Gloves, sunscreen, of course a camera, a hat in case it gets chilly, a few extra layers, sunglasses, an extra pair of socks, and finally, a water bottle. These short films are a great overview for proper clothing in Greenland, but of course, weather changes from day to day, and the climate is changing from year to year. Therefore, we suggest that both you and your guests check the forecast consistently as the departure date approaches. As we come to the end of this Greenland 101 online course, we want to leave you with a few odds and ends and frequently asked questions we receive from prospective travelers. Polar bears are known as the king of Greenland, and while we don't promote polar bear viewing in the way that some of our Arctic compatriots do, travelers still wonder about the likelihood of seeing a bear and what to do in such a situation. They ask, should I be worried about polar bears? And if so, is it possible to rent rifles for protection? What we tell people in general is to be cautious. There are some places where a sighting is more likely than others, like remote parts of North Greenland and remote parts of East Greenland. And it's always recommended to consult the local tourist office, or even locals if no tourist office is available, to ask if there have been any recent bear sightings. In Tasiilaq, the town in East Greenland, rifle rentals for protection are available. Hiking is one of the most common activities in Greenland, be it guided or self-guided, and travelers are usually interested in as many hard resources as possible to prepare for their trek. They ask, are there any hiking maps I can use? Visit Greenland has no hiking maps for direct sale. However, hikers should be able to buy detailed topographic maps at the local tourist office, or in the case of Nuuk, at the bookstore. These maps can also be ordered online at the bookstore's website, www.adtuakket.com. That's spelled A, T like Tango, U, A, G, K, A, T like Tango.com. We also have a few further pieces of information for hikers. It's always recommended to notify the local tourist office of the following information: the intended route, an expected return time and date, and overnight accommodation booking. Also, it's a good idea for your guests to have a hat and extra warm layers in their hiking packs, even for day tours, in case the weather changes. If any sudden changes do arise, turning back or finding a sheltered place are better ideas than forging ahead into a storm. Finally, we want to preserve the untouched Greenlandic nature as much as possible, so we encourage everyone to practice a pack it in, pack it out method with respect to food waste, trash, and plastic or glass containers. Arctic regions are notorious for having swarms of mosquitoes in summertime during the fast snowmelt, so travelers often ask, is it true there are many mosquitoes in Greenland? The answer is yes. There are mosquitoes and small black flies during the summer months of June, July, and August. So that travelers are as comfortable as possible when out in the nature, we advise that they bring mosquito head nets, bug repellent, and bug afterbite solution with them. In larger towns, these items can also be purchased at the local store. Greenland gets visitors from all over the world, some of whom are quite used to obtaining a travel visa. They ask, do I need a visa and passport when traveling to Greenland? Every visitor needs a passport when entering Greenland, but only some visitors need a special visa. The general rule of thumb is, if you qualify for a visa to go to Denmark, then you will qualify for a visa to go to Greenland. A full list of countries requiring a travel visa can be found at the website www.newtodenmark.dk. Application instructions can also be found at this website. In general, citizens of the following countries do not need a visa to travel to Greenland: Australia, Canada, Japan, Western European and Scandinavian nations, the United Kingdom, and the United States. That concludes the Greenland 101 course. We've gone over some of the basic information as well as commonly asked questions to increase your knowledge about Greenland as a travel destination. We hope you found this to be a useful tool to which you will refer in the future. The next course in the series is Greenland 102, in which we go into greater depth about the nature-based and cultural experiences possible in Greenland. We talk about the specific activities that your guests can do to experience these elements. And, for your sake, we go over how to make cohesive itineraries focusing on these elements. Thanks for joining us, and see you at the next course.